The air in Ironhaven hung heavy with the scent of iron and sweat. Alaric, a young blacksmith's apprentice with calloused hands and a heart full of restless dreams, swung his hammer with practiced ease. He was shaping a simple horseshoe, but his mind was far from the mundane task. His gaze drifted to the worn leather-bound book resting on the workbench, its pages filled with intricate maps and cryptic symbols. It was his late mentor, Master Kale, who had gifted him the book, whispering about a hidden treasure buried deep within Eldoria. Alaric had always dismissed it as a whimsical tale, a way to keep a young apprentice's mind occupied. But now, with Master Kale gone, the book felt more like a legacy, a whispered promise of adventure. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forge, Alaric decided to delve deeper into the book's secret. He carefully flipped through the brittle pages, his fingers tracing the faded ink. Then, his eyes fell upon a peculiar map, unlike anything he had seen before. It depicted a sprawling forest, its branches twisting like gnarled fingers, a dark heart pulsing at its center. His heart pounded in his chest. This wasn't just a whimsical tale. This was real. He traced the map's path with his finger, following a winding trail that led to a hidden cave, marked with a symbol he couldn't decipher. The map was incomplete, missing a crucial piece, yet it held a promise of something extraordinary. Suddenly, a shadow fell across the forge. Alaric looked up to see a woman standing in the doorway, her face veiled in shadow. She was tall and slender, her eyes like pools of deep blue, her presence radiating an aura of both mystery and power. "I am Elara," she said, her voice a soft melody. "I seek the Heart of Eldoria." Alaric, startled, nearly dropped the map. The Heart of Eldoria, a legendary artifact whispered about in hushed tones, was said to grant immense power to its possessor. He had never believed in such tales, but this woman, with her piercing gaze and air of quiet authority, made him question everything he thought he knew. "The Heart of Eldoria?" Alaric asked, his voice barely a whisper. "But that's just a legend." Lara smiled, a hint of amusement in her eyes. "Legends are often based on truth, young one, and this truth is one I seek." She stepped closer, her gaze fixed on the map in Alaric's hands. "That map," she said, her voice low and urgent. "It holds the key to finding the heart." Alaric felt a surge of adrenaline, a mixture of fear and excitement. He had stumbled upon something bigger than himself, something that could change his life forever. "But how did you know about this map?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Lara's smile faded. "Let's just say I have my reasons," she replied, her eyes holding a depth that made Alaric uneasy. The sound of heavy boots echoed through the forge. Alaric turned to see a group of men in Lord Cedric's livery, their faces grim and their eyes filled with a cold determination. "We've been sent to retrieve the map," the leader said, his voice gruff. "Hand it over, boy." Alaric's heart sank. He had stumbled upon something far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. The map, the Heart of Eldoria, and now Lord Cedric's men. He was caught in the middle of a game he didn't understand, a game with stakes far higher than he could comprehend. I don't know what you're talking about," Alaric stammered, his voice betraying his fear. The leader's eyes narrowed. "Don't play games with us, boy. We know you have the map. Hand it over." Lara stepped forward, her voice calm and steady. "You will not take the map," she said, her gaze meeting the leader's with a steely resolve. "It is not yours to take." The leader laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "You're just a woman," he sneered. "You can't stop us." Elara's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. "Don't underestimate me," she warned. "I have more power than you realize." The tension in the forge was thick enough to cut with a knife. Alaric, caught between two forces he couldn't comprehend, knew he had to make a choice. He could hand over the map, hoping to appease Lord Cedric's men and save himself. Or he could stand by Elara, a stranger who had awakened a fire within him, a fire that promised adventure, danger, and a destiny he never knew he craved. He looked at Elara, at the strength in her eyes, the quiet determination in her stance. He felt a strange kinship with this mysterious woman, a sense of shared purpose. He knew what he had to do. "I'm not giving you the map," he said, his voice firm, his heart pounding with newfound courage. The leader snarled, his hand reaching for his sword. Alaric, Elara, and the men in Cedric's livery were locked in a tense standoff. The fate of the map, the Heart of Eldoria, and their own destinies hanging in the balance. The forge door slammed shut behind them, the sound echoing through the narrow streets of Ironhaven. Alaric, Elara, and the map clutched tightly in his hand were fleeing for their lives. The men in Lord Cedric's livery were close behind, their shouts echoing through the cobbled streets. "This way," Elara yelled, her voice a mix of urgency and determination. She led them through a maze of narrow alleyways, their footsteps muffled by the cobblestones. The air was thick, with the smell of smoke and stale bread, the sounds of daily life replaced by the frantic rhythm of their escape. "We can't keep running," Alaric gasped, his lungs burning. "They'll catch us. We have to reach the Whispering Woods," Elara said, her eyes scanning the maze of buildings. "It's our only chance." The Whispering Woods, a vast and ancient forest that lay on the outskirts of Ironhaven, was shrouded in legend and fear. Tales whispered of strange creatures that lurked within its depths, of ancient magic that whispered secrets to those who dared to enter. The common folk avoided the woods, but for Alaric and Elara, it was their only hope of escape. They finally reached the edge of the town, the towering trees of the Whispering Woods looming before them like silent sentinels. As they stepped into the cool, damp air of the forest, the sounds of Ironhaven faded behind them, replaced by the rustling of leaves and the chirping of unseen birds. "This is where I leave you," Elara said, her voice dropping to a low whisper. "I can't risk drawing attention to myself." Alaric felt a pang of disappointment. He had grown accustomed to her presence, her strength, her mysterious aura. But he understood. Elara was a woman of secrets, her past shrouded in shadows. He couldn't expect her to stay by his side forever. "But what about the map?" he asked, his voice laced with worry. "We need to find the Heart of Eldoria." Elara smiled, a hint of warmth in her eyes. "Don't worry, young one," she said. "We'll find it together. But for now, you need to be safe." She placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch surprisingly warm and reassuring. "Trust your instincts," she whispered. "And be careful." With a final nod, Elara disappeared into the dense undergrowth, leaving Alaric alone with the map and a growing sense of uncertainty. He looked around at the towering trees, their branches reaching towards the sky like grasping claws. The forest felt alive, pulsing with an energy that sent shivers down his spine. He took a deep breath, trying to quell the fear that was rising within him. He had to find the Heart of Eldoria, not just for himself, but for Elara, for the world that seemed to be teetering on the brink of chaos. He started walking, following the winding path marked on the map. The forest floor was covered in a thick layer of leaves, crunching under his boots. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying wood, the silence broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the chirping of a hidden bird. As he walked deeper into the forest, the shadows grew longer, the air colder. He felt a sense of unease, a prickling on the back of his neck that told him he was being watched. He quickened his pace, his heart pounding in his chest. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees. Alaric froze, his hand instinctively reaching for the dagger strapped to his belt. He listened intently, his senses on high alert. The growl came again, closer this time, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps crunching through the leaves. Alaric drew his dagger, his grip tightening. He had faced many dangers in his life, but nothing like this. He had never felt so alone, so vulnerable. Then, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall and broad-shouldered, his face hidden by a hooded cloak. The figure moved with a silent grace, his eyes gleaming with an almost predatory intensity. "Who are you?" Alaric demanded, his voice trembling slightly. The figure chuckled, a low, guttural sound. "I am Garrick," he said, his voice rough and gravelly. "And I am here to help you." Alaric stared at the figure, his mind racing. "Garrick!" The name echoed in his mind, a whisper from the legends of the Whispering Woods. He was a ranger, a man who knew the forest like the back of his hand, a man who could navigate its dangers with ease. "Help me," Alaric asked, his voice filled with suspicion. "Why?" Eric smiled, a glint of amusement in his eyes. "Because I know the way," he said, "and because I have a vested interest in seeing the Heart of Eldoria remain in the right hands." Alaric hesitated for a moment, his instincts screaming at him to run. But Garrick's words, his confidence, his aura of quiet strength, convinced him to trust him. "All right," Alaric said, his voice barely a whisper. "Let's go." With Garrick leading the way, Alaric ventured deeper into the Whispering Woods, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The forest was a labyrinth of twisting paths and tangled undergrowth, a place where shadows danced and whispers carried secrets on the wind. But with Garrick by his side, Alaric felt a glimmer of hope. He had found an ally, a guide, a protector, and together they would navigate the dangers of the Whispering Woods, seeking the Heart of Eldoria, a treasure that held the fate of Eldoria in its hands. Whispering Woods held them captive for days. Garrick, a seasoned ranger with eyes as sharp as his hunting knives, led them through a maze of ancient trees and tangled undergrowth. He navigated the forest with an uncanny sense of direction, his knowledge of the woods as intimate as his own heartbeat. Alaric, still reeling from the adrenaline of his escape from Ironhaven, found himself increasingly reliant on Garrick's expertise. He learned to read the subtle signs of the forest, the rustling of leaves that spoke of approaching danger, the scent of damp earth that hinted at hidden streams, the patterns of sunlight that revealed the passage of time. Garrick, however, remained a mystery. He spoke little of his past, his words measured and deliberate, his gaze often distant, as if lost in memories that haunted him. Yet, he was a fierce protector, his presence a reassuring shield against the unseen dangers that lurked in the shadows of the woods. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor, they stumbled upon a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a small, ramshackle village, its houses built of wood and stone, their roofs thatched with straw. A plume of smoke rose from a chimney, a beacon of warmth and life in the heart of the wilderness. "This is Oakhaven," Garrick said, his voice low. "It's a haven for those who seek refuge from the world." Alaric looked around at the village, a sense of relief washing over him. He had been living on adrenaline and fear for days, his body weary, his mind exhausted. The sight of the village, with its flickering lights and the promise of warmth and shelter, filled him with a sense of hope. They approached the village cautiously, their footsteps muffled by the soft earth. A woman stood by the well, her face etched with the lines of time and hardship, her eyes holding a wisdom that belied her age. "Welcome, travelers," she said, her voice a gentle melody. "You are safe here." She introduced herself as Mara, a healer with a heart as warm as her smile. She led them to a small cottage, its walls adorned with herbs and dried flowers, the air thick with the scent of healing. Mara offered them food and shelter, her kindness a balm to their weary souls. As they ate, Alaric shared his story, the discovery of the map, the escape from Ironhaven, the journey through the Whispering Woods. Mara listened patiently, her eyes reflecting a deep understanding of the world's complexities. "The Heart of Eldoria," she said, her voice soft, her gaze distant. "It's a legend that has haunted this land for centuries. Some say it grants immense power, others say it's a symbol of unity and peace." She spoke of ancient civilizations, of forgotten empires, of a time when magic was not a whisper, but a tangible force, woven into the fabric of the world. She spoke of the Heart of Eldoria, a symbol of that lost era, a relic of a time when humanity and nature were in harmony. "The heart is not a source of power," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "It is a reminder of what we have lost, a beacon of hope for what we can become." Alaric listened, his mind racing. He had always believed in the legends, in the stories that were passed down through generations. But Mara's words, her wisdom, her unwavering faith in the power of unity and peace, resonated with him. He began to see the Heart of Eldoria not as a source of power, but as a symbol of something far greater, something that could unite the fractured world of Eldoria. He shared his own story, his dreams of adventure, his desire to make a difference in the world. Mara listened patiently, her eyes reflecting a deep understanding of his youthful idealism. "You have a good heart, young one," she said, her voice filled with warmth, "and a thirst for adventure. But remember, true strength lies not in power, but in compassion and courage." Her words touched him deeply. He had always sought adventure, a way to escape the confines of his small village, a chance to make his mark on the world. But Mara's words made him realize that true strength lay not in power, but in the choices he made, the actions he took, the compassion he showed. He looked at Elara, who had been silent throughout the evening, her gaze fixed on the flickering flames of the hearth. She was a woman of secrets, her past shrouded in shadows, her power a mystery to him. But he saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes, a hint of the burdens she carried. "Elara," he said, his voice soft, "you haven't said much. What is it that you seek?" Elara looked up, her eyes meeting his with a depth that made him uneasy. "I seek what we all seek," she said, her voice a low whisper. "A place where we can be free, where we can be ourselves, where we can find peace." She shared her story, a story of loss and betrayal, of a lineage that had been cursed, of a power that she could barely control. She spoke of the burden of her past, the weight of her destiny, the fear that she would never be free. Alaric listened, his heart filled with empathy. He saw the strength in her, the courage she possessed, the burdens she carried. He saw a woman who was fighting for something greater than herself, a woman who sought not power, but peace. He realized that they were all seeking the same thing, a world where they could be free, where they could be themselves, where they could find peace. In the heart of Eldoria, the legendary artifact that had drawn them together was not a source of power, but a symbol of that shared dream. As the night deepened, they shared stories and laughter, their bonds strengthening with each passing moment. Mara, with her wisdom and compassion, became a guiding light, her presence a source of comfort and strength. Alaric, Elara, and Garrick, three souls bound by a shared destiny, found themselves united in their quest for the heart of Eldoria. They were no longer just adventurers seeking a treasure. They were a team, a family, united by a shared dream of a better world. The morning mist hung heavy over Oakhaven, shrouding the village in a veil of ethereal beauty. Alaric, Elara, and Garrick stood at the edge of the forest, their faces etched with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. The map, worn and faded, pointed towards the forgotten ruins, a place whispered about in hushed tones, a relic of a forgotten civilization that had once ruled Eldoria. Mara, her eyes filled with a mixture of concern and wisdom, had provided them with a cryptic clue. "Seek the whispers of the ancients, for they hold the key to the heart." The words echoed in Alaric's mind, a riddle that seemed to hold the key to their destiny. "The forgotten ruins are said to be a place of great power," Garrick said, his voice low and measured. "But they are also a place of great danger." He spoke of ancient traps, of cunning illusions, of the whispers of the past that could lure the unwary to their doom. Alaric, despite his youthful bravado, felt a shiver run down his spine. He had never been one for riddles, for mysteries, for the unknown. But he knew that the heart of Eldoria lay within the ruins, and he was determined to find it. Elara, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon, remained silent. Her past, shrouded in shadows, held secrets that she guarded fiercely. But Alaric sensed a change in her, a deepening of her resolve, a hint of a power that lay dormant beneath the surface. They entered the ruins with caution, their footsteps echoing through the crumbling corridors. The air was thick with the scent of dust and decay, the walls adorned with faded murals depicting scenes of a forgotten world. Strange symbols, etched into the stone, seemed to pulsate with an unseen energy, their meaning lost to time. Garrick, his eyes scanning the walls and the floor, moved with a silent grace, his senses attuned to the subtle shifts in the air, the whispers of danger that only he could hear. He led them through a maze of crumbling chambers, each one holding a new challenge, a new riddle, a new test of their courage and their wits. They encountered ancient traps, cunningly disguised, their mechanisms designed to ensnare the unwary. Garrick, with his knowledge of the ancient arts, disarmed them with a deftness that bordered on magic. Alaric, his heart pounding in his chest, marveled at his friend's skill, his ability to navigate the dangers of the past with such ease. They faced illusions, designed to deceive the senses, to lure them into a false reality. Elara, her eyes shimmering with a strange light, saw through the illusions, her perception sharpened by a power that she could not fully control. She guided them through the labyrinth of deception, her strength a beacon in the darkness. They deciphered ancient puzzles, their minds working in unison, their knowledge of the past and present coming together to unlock the secrets of the forgotten ruin. Alaric, his mind sharp, his intuition honed by the challenges they faced, found himself drawn to the puzzles, his logic and creativity working in tandem to solve them. As they ventured deeper into the ruins, the air grew colder, the shadows longer. They felt a presence, a whisper of something ancient and powerful, watching them, testing them, waiting for the moment to strike. Suddenly, a tremor shook the ground, a low rumble that echoed through the corridors. Alaric, his heart pounding in his chest, felt a surge of adrenaline. They were not alone. They turned to face the source of the tremor, their eyes widening in disbelief. A group of men, clad in Lord Cedric's livery, stood before them, their faces grim, their eyes filled with a cold determination. They had been tracking them, their pursuit relentless, their desire for the Heart of Eldoria burning brighter than the sun. "You've come far, little birds," the leader said, his voice a cold whisper. "But your flight ends here." He raised his hand, a signal for his men to attack. Alaric, his heart pounding in his chest, drew his dagger, his hand trembling slightly. He had faced danger before, but never on this scale, never with such high stakes. Garrick, his eyes gleaming with a cold fury, drew his bow, his arrow aimed at the leader's heart. Elara, her eyes flashing with a dangerous light, stepped forward, her power surging through her veins. The battle raged, a clash of steel and magic, a struggle for survival. Alaric, fueled by adrenaline and a desperate desire to protect his friends, fought with a ferocity that surprised even himself. He dodged blows, parried attacks, his movements becoming fluid, his reflexes honed by the heat of battle. Garrick, his arrows finding their mark with deadly accuracy, kept the enemy at bay, his skill a testament to his years of experience in the wilderness. Elara, her power growing with each passing moment, unleashed a wave of energy, pushing back the enemy with a force that sent them reeling. But the enemy was relentless, their numbers overwhelming, their determination unwavering. Alaric, his body weary, his strength waning, felt a surge of despair. They were outnumbered, outmatched, their hopes of finding the Heart of Eldoria fading with each passing moment. Just as the enemy seemed poised to overwhelm them, a sudden blast of energy erupted from Elara, a wave of pure magic that sent the enemy scattering, their bodies thrown back by an unseen force. Elara, her eyes blazing with power, stood amidst the chaos, a beacon of defiance, a testament to the strength that lay dormant within her. Alaric, his heart pounding with a mixture of awe and fear, watched in disbelief as Elara unleashed her power, her magic a force to be reckoned with. He had always known that she was different, that she possessed a power that set her apart from ordinary mortals. But he had never witnessed it unleashed in such a raw, untamed form. The enemy, shaken and disoriented, retreated into the depths of the ruins, their pursuit abandoned, their desire for the Heart of Eldoria momentarily forgot. Alaric, his breath ragged, his body aching, slumped against a crumbling wall, his mind reeling from the intensity of the battle. They had survived, but the victory was bittersweet. The enemy had retreated, but they would be back, their pursuit relentless, their thirst for power insatiable. And Alaric knew that they were only halfway to the goal, the Heart of Eldoria still hidden, its secrets yet to be revealed. He looked at Elara, her eyes still glowing with the residual power of her magic, her face pale, her breath shallow. He saw the burden she carried, the weight of her destiny, the fear that she couldn't control her power. "Elara," he said, his voice soft, his heart filled with concern. "Are you all right?" Elara looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of exhaustion and gratitude. "I'm fine," she said, her voice a whisper. "For now." She turned to Garrick, who stood beside her, his face etched with worry. "We need to get out of here," she said, her voice firm. "The enemy will be back." Garrick nodded, his eyes scanning the ruins, his senses alert. "We need to find the Heart of Eldoria," he said, his voice low and urgent. "And we need to find it quickly." They continued their journey through the forgotten ruins, their senses heightened, their steps cautious. They navigated the crumbling corridors, their eyes scanning the walls for any sign of the heart, their minds racing with the knowledge that they were being hunted. They came to a large chamber, its walls adorned with faded murals depicting scenes of a forgotten world. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, its surface smooth and polished, its edges worn by the passage of time. On the pedestal lay a heart, carved from a single piece of obsidian, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. It pulsed with an energy that seemed to vibrate through the chamber, a force that drew them closer, a beacon that promised both power and peace. Alaric, his heart pounding in his chest, felt a surge of excitement. They had found it, the Heart of Eldoria, the legendary artifact that had drawn them together, the symbol of a forgotten era, the key to a better world. But as he reached out to touch the heart, a wave of energy surged through the chamber, a force that pushed him back, a warning that something was amiss. "Be careful," Elara whispered, her voice laced with caution. "This is not what we expected." Garrick, his eyes narrowed, his senses alert, scanned the chamber, his mind racing. "This is not the Heart of Eldoria," he said, his voice low and urgent. "This is a trap." Alaric, his mind reeling, looked at the heart, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light, its energy pulsing with a deceptive allure. He had always believed in the legends, in the stories that were passed down through generations. But he realized now that the Heart of Eldoria was not a source of power, but a symbol of something far greater, something that could unite the fractured world of Eldoria. And this obsidian heart was a counterfeit, a lure, a trap designed to ensnare those who sought the true heart. He looked at Elara, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. He saw the burden she carried, the weight of her destiny, the fear that she couldn't control her power. He looked at Garrick, his face etched with worry, his eyes scanning the chamber, his senses alert. He saw the wisdom he possessed, the knowledge of the ancient arts, the courage that he had shown in the face of danger. He knew that they were facing a challenge far greater than they had ever imagined. They were not just seeking a treasure. They were seeking a symbol, a beacon of hope, a reminder of what they had lost and what they could become. They were not alone. The enemy was watching, their pursuit relentless, their thirst for power insatiable. They had to be careful. They had to be smart. They had to find the true Heart of Eldoria, the symbol of unity and peace, the key to a better world. And they had to do it before the enemy found them. The air in the forgotten ruins hung heavy with the scent of dust and decay. The obsidian heart, a cunningly crafted illusion, pulsed with a deceptive allure. But Alaric, Elara, and Garrick knew better. They had been tricked, their quest for the Heart of Eldoria leading them to a trap, a carefully orchestrated snare set by Lord Cedric. The realization was sobering. They had been so focused on the legend, on the whispers of power and unity, that they had overlooked the obvious. Lord Cedric, driven by ambition and a thirst for power, would stop at nothing to obtain the heart, even if it meant using deception and treachery. Garrick, his eyes narrowed, his senses alert, scanned the chamber, his mind racing. "We need to get out of here," he said, his voice low and urgent. "The enemy will be back." Elara, her eyes shimmering with a strange light, nodded in agreement. "We need to find the true heart," she said, her voice laced with determination. "And we need to find it before the enemy does." Alaric, his heart pounding in his chest, felt a surge of adrenaline. They had been tricked, but they were not defeated. They had come too far, faced too many dangers, to give up now. They had to find the heart, not just for themselves, but for the world that seemed to be teetering on the brink of chaos. They carefully retraced their steps, their senses heightened, their steps cautious. They navigated the crumbling corridors, their eyes scanning the walls for any sign of the true heart, their minds racing with the knowledge that they were being hunted. The air grew colder, the shadows longer. They felt a presence, a whisper of something ancient and powerful, watching them, testing them, waiting for the moment to strike. They came to a large chamber, its walls adorned with faded murals depicting scenes of a forgotten world. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, its surface smooth and polished, its edges worn by the passage of time. On the pedestal lay a heart, carved from a single piece of obsidian, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. It pulsed with an energy that seemed to vibrate through the chamber, a force that drew them closer, a beacon that promised both power and peace. Alaric, his heart pounding in his chest, felt a surge of excitement. They had found it, the Heart of Eldoria, the legendary artifact that had drawn them together, the symbol of a forgotten era, the key to a better world. But as he reached out to touch the heart, a wave of energy surged through the chamber, a force that pushed him back, a warning that something was amiss. "Be careful," Elara whispered, her voice laced with caution. "This is not what we expected." Garrick, his eyes narrowed, his senses alert, scanned the chamber, his mind racing. "This is not the Heart of Eldoria," he said, his voice low and urgent. "This is a trap." Alaric, his mind reeling, looked at the heart, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light, its energy pulsing with a deceptive allure. He had always believed in the legends, in the stories that were passed down through generations. But he realized now that the Heart of Eldoria was not a source of power, but a symbol of something far greater, something that could unite the fractured world of Eldoria. And this obsidian heart was a counterfeit, a lure, a trap designed to ensnare those who sought the true heart. He looked at Elara, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. He saw the burden she carried, the weight of her destiny, the fear that she couldn't control her power. He looked at Garrick, his face etched with worry, his eyes scanning the chamber, his senses alert. He saw the wisdom he possessed, the knowledge of the ancient arts, the courage that he had shown in the face of danger. He knew that they were facing a challenge far greater than they had ever imagined. They were not just seeking a treasure. They were seeking a symbol, a beacon of hope, a reminder of what they had lost and what they could become. And they were not alone. The enemy was watching, their pursuit relentless, their thirst for power insatiable. They had to be careful. They had to be smart. They had to find the true heart of Eldoria, the symbol of unity and peace, the key to a better world. And they had to do it before the enemy found them. They carefully retraced their steps, their senses heightened, their steps cautious. They navigated the crumbling corridors, their eyes scanning the walls for any sign of the true heart, their minds racing with the knowledge that they were being hunted. The air grew colder, the shadows longer. They felt a presence, a whisper of something ancient and powerful, watching them, testing them, waiting for the moment to strike. They came to a large chamber, its walls adorned with faded murals depicting scenes of a forgotten world. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, its surface smooth and polished, its edges worn by the passage of time. On the pedestal lay a heart, carved from a single piece of obsidian, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. It pulsed with an energy that seemed to vibrate through the chamber, a force that drew them closer, a beacon that promised both power and peace. Alaric, his heart pounding in his chest, felt a surge of excitement. They had found it, the Heart of Eldoria, the legendary artifact that had drawn them together, the symbol of a forgotten era, the key to a better world. But as he reached out to touch the heart, a wave of energy surged through the chamber, a force that pushed him back, a warning that something was amiss. "Be careful," Elara whispered, her voice laced with caution. "This is not what we expected." Garrick, his eyes narrowed, his senses alert, scanned the chamber, his mind racing. "This is not the Heart of Eldoria," he said, his voice low and urgent. "This is a trap." Alaric, his mind reeling, looked at the heart, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light, its energy pulsing with a deceptive allure. He had always believed in the legends, in the stories that were passed down through generations. But he realized now that the Heart of Eldoria was not a source of power, but a symbol of something far greater, something that could unite the fractured world of Eldoria. And this obsidian heart was a counterfeit, a lure, a trap, designed to ensnare those who sought the true heart. He looked at Elara, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. He saw the burden she carried, the weight of her destiny, the fear that she couldn't control her power. He looked at Garrick, his face etched with worry, his eyes scanning the chamber, his senses alert. He saw the wisdom he possessed, the knowledge of the ancient arts, the courage that he had shown in the face of danger. He knew that they were facing a challenge far greater than they had ever imagined. They were not just seeking a treasure. They were seeking a symbol, a beacon of hope, a reminder of what they had lost and what they could become. And they were not alone. The enemy was watching, their pursuit relentless, their thirst for power insatiable. They had to be careful. They had to be smart. They had to find the true heart of Eldoria, the symbol of unity and peace, the key to a better world. And they had to do it before the enemy found them.